It was the year 1995. For all we knew, or at least the people who played video games back then, computer video games I mean, not whatever passed for video games on that old Atari knockoff that I had back then. For all those people knew, the Might and Magic franchise was at an end, with an epic story that concluded in World of Xeen, one of the, still to this day, greatest ideas for an expansion ever made, one that encouraged you to play both Clouds of Xeen and Dark Side of Xeen, because if you had them both installed, they combine into basically free content, more game, something you'd be paying for today. And that was it. That seemed like it was it for the Might and Magic franchise for now, but then, lo and behold, there did come, in September of 1995, a new Might and Magic game. But it wasn't a typical Might and Magic game. This was not another standard first-person role-playing game. This was not a dungeon crawler. This was not a game where we would go around, talk to people, get skills from them, and drink stuff out of barrels. This technically had more in common with a much older game called King's Bounty, which we have covered in a previous show oh so many years ago. This was Heroes of Might and Magic. This was a continuation of the franchise in a brand new form, and technically what is its most successful, most beloved form, that of a turn-based strategy role-playing game. Its name may seem a bit strange. I mean, Heroes of Might and Magic, were you not always playing a hero in Might and Magic? You made 6 of them, usually. And yes, it does seem a bit strange, but Warlords was already taken, so they had to make do with what they could. You were not really playing a simple hero, a simple adventurer in the Might and Magic universe. You're playing as, well, a lord, if you will, who hired heroes. Or you could consider that you were playing as the heroes that you were hiring. It was your job to keep up the economy, to take care of your castles, to recruit troops, to equip your heroes with said troops and send them out to gather resources and fight enemies and gain experience and find items and conquer your foes and become eventually the lord of this new land. Lords of Might and Magic would have also been a good idea of a title, I guess, but I think there actually is a Lords of Might and Magic at some point. They made basically every kind of other surname to the franchise possible. Champions, Crusaders, probably Lords came up at some point. There was a Counter-Strike game based on Might and Magic in the early 2000s. What I'm saying is, 3DO loved to slap that name onto anything it could. Though now that I think about it, maybe they couldn't call it Lords of Might and Magic because of Lords of Magic, which, well, it came out a bit later, but there may have also been some confusion with Warlords as well. Analyzing this game from the perspective of somebody that's existed in a world where Heroes of Might and Magic 2 and 3 exist is positively pointless. The first Heroes of Might and Magic game is simplistic. I would dare say that it is in some ways more simplistic than King's Bounty was, because at least King's Bounty had more of a, I wouldn't say a point to it, but it had a more of a cohesive world. It had you doing something, whereas Heroes of Might and Magic, although it does have a campaign, 4 of them actually, is more focused on the actual maps. It's also a sprawling narrative, a sprawling world, a sprawling campaign, which is something that Might and Magic and King's Bounty had accustomed us to, and it's more of a skirmish affair, where you would battle either some AIs or some people you knew on maps that were not all that gigantic. They weren't small either. Some of them were generous, you could say, from the point of view of the year 1995, but it still pales in comparison in every aspect to what came after it. Though that is not to say that this game has no merit. When it came out, it absolutely had merit. It was, well, it wasn't super complicated, but it was enjoyable, it was fun, people appreciated it. And in its time, even though you may look at it now and think, oh my god, that looks hideous, the graphics you're seeing, the art style was a lot closer to that of the Might and Magic games. You could really feel that this was a world of Might and Magic. Not maybe Xen or Kron or Varn 4, but you kinda know where these creatures come from. Even some of the names should be familiar. There is a Lord Olimar there. A Queen Lamanda, probably not the same ones, I guess, who knows, but they're there. Reference to older works are quite often in this franchise. And if you actually read the manual, let me rephrase that, if you had the manual, which thankfully you do now in the GOG version, you would realize that there is a strong link to the Might and Magic franchise. Even though there are no sci-fi elements within the game itself, they are absolutely mentioned in the manual. Well, one pivotal element is mentioned, a gate, one that transported the canonical hero of the campaign, Lord Iron Fist, from I think it was Varn 4 to a new land called Enroth, one where initially he does not see much of any competition in his attempt to claim this land in the name of his lord, who he I wouldn't say ran away from, but went on an extended vacation farther from, conveniently, while the court sorcerer tried to kill his lord and failed. There are many letters written by Iron Fist to his lord Ragnar, and they start, kind of not apologetic, but saying, oh yes, this is all a misunderstanding. By the way, send my regards to your new beloved queen, Iway. Know that you are both my treasured friends and will forever treasure the time we spent together and all that stuff. And it slowly, over the course of several years, descends into something else. These letters were posted on a pillar next to the gate, and from time to time the letters disappear. Either somebody from the old world comes to get them or they vanish. Iron Fist never learned that. But as the costs of actually conquering this world increased and he asked for money from Ragnar and nothing came, he gets constantly more salty, to the point where he eventually admits that, yes, you goddamn bastard, I did try to kill you. The progression, though, is, well, it's overt, it's not really covert. It doesn't take a lot to read between the lines. They're very beautifully crafted letters. They are very hilarious, and the way that he just tears to pieces the queen with which he had an affair and constantly rubs it in Ragnar's face, and then proceeds to say that the queen actually stinks and only takes a bath once a year and she's horrible, and now he has a new wife, a better wife. It's just so fun. Nothing of that is actually in the game. I mean, this was, well, it was 95, yes, you could fit text of that length in a video game. This isn't 1984 anymore, but that would have detracted from the core focus of the game, which was just the skirmishes, the minute-to-minute gameplay, the, what you would call, the purest form of Heroes of Might and Magic. And as the series went on and it added cinematics and all sorts of other stuff, you do kind of feel that it kind of drifted away from that. I mean, not that the cinematics that you would see in Heroes of Might and Magic 3 in the intro, or Heroes of Might and Magic 4, between the campaigns, or maybe not the last one. Not that those detracted from anything, but when they became part of the campaigns themselves, in-game, those were a bit, not really what the series was about. At its core, in its simplest form, Heroes 1 established what it is about, and this is what it's always been about. Sure, it became more complicated, more complex, more fleshed out as time went on. Heroes got skills which they did not have in this game. Spells got an additional level. The number of castles was expanded. But what Heroes 1 gave us is what Heroes always has been. And let's not forget another very important aspect of what Heroes of Might and Magic means. The music. This is where it all started. Paul Romero and Robert King's first collaboration. Say, did you know that Robert King actually was a recording engineer on Back 4 Blood, the new game from the creators of Left 4 Dead? Well, he was. And I think it actually has to be appreciated in some way that Heroes of Might and Magic 1 had a castle which has been consistently, well, not present in a series for a long time. The Sorceress. Yeah, it kind of got replaced by the Druids, the Sylvan, but the Sorceress had a different feel. It was magical, but a magic in tune with nature that isn't simply Sylvan. It's not druidic. It's something else. It had its own different feel, its own identity, if you will. Which is why in the flashback, if you will, campaign with Jim in Heroes 3's expansion, Shadow of Death, she's still a sorceress even though there is no such class in Heroes 3. That was a nice touch. But this is how it started, with a knight, a barbarian, a warlock, and a sorceress. Might and the magic on equal footing. 2 versus 2. Necromancers and wizards would come in the second one. Not another might-focused faction though. I mean, yes, necromancers you could say are might-focused, but necromancy in itself is magical in nature. And the wizard, well, it's a wizard. I think an imbalance appeared at some point, and they tried to correct by making the might-focused faction, the mightiest might-focused faction, the barbarians, just be completely, removed from any sort of magical component as the series went on. But here things were balanced in their way. They were simple. They were simplistic as hell. They were based on the idea that, yeah, a dragon will kill anything on the map by itself sometimes. But by the time you get the resources to make one dragon, you will already have 2 phoenixes or 5 or 6 paladins knocking at your door, and you have nothing. But if you do have dragons, it's well, it's kind of hard to argue with dragons. Or ghosts. Ghosts showed up in this game as well, but they were the only creature that you could not recruit. So that mistake happened in Heroes 2, because even in Heroes 1, ghosts still did their thing of, I kill a peasant, I become a ghost. I kill 1,000,000 peasants, I become 1,000,000 ghosts. And we all know how that ended. Heroes of Might and Magic 1 was successful in its own right. I believe, according to legends, that it sold around 100,000 units, which may not sound like a lot today, but those were different times when budgets were not numbered. Well, actually, I think Wing Commander 3, which cost 10 million, did come out around this time, but the budget for something like Heroes of Might and Magic was nowhere near that. It had enough success to warrant a sequel, one that was even more popular, and that one got an expansion and then a sequel, and Might and Magic came back with Might and Magic 6 and 7 and 8, and Heroes 3 went on to basically conquer the entire planet as one of the most beloved games ever made. And then we got 4, and 4 had issues. 5 was good in its own right, and 6 is a mistake, and I haven't bought 7 yet, so I can't really tell you anything about it. I hope to get it, to have an actual conversation with myself and passively with you as well at some point. And this is where it all started. From such humble a beginning, endless forms, most beautiful and most wondrous, have been and maybe one day will be evolved. But there is one thing that Heroes 1 did better than every other title in this series. Look at this rose bush. Look at how beautiful, how simple, how pretty it looks. It does not show up in any other game in the series. Much like the berry bushes in Age of Empires 1 looked so much better than those in 2, this is a unique feature that no other Heroes game had. It's honestly the thing I remember most about the first Heroes game. It is, up until now, the one that I have played the least, not counting the 7th, which I have not played. But that rosebush, that will always stay with me. Should I get the chance to actually get my hands on Heroes of Might and Magic 7 or Might and Magic Heroes 7, stay tuned for that final video. And of course, hoping that there's still an internet connection when the time comes due to recent military events. At the end of this month, there will also be the traditional Heroes of Might and Magic 2 anniversary livestream celebrating, man, it's been 20 years. 20 years since I first played Heroes of Might and Magic 2. Yes, it's a bit of a stupid thing to celebrate, but then again, it's Heroes of Might and Magic 2. How can you not celebrate the first time you laid eyes upon it? 20 years of playing those maps again and again and again, and I still often get creamed by the AI. Let's see if it'll happen again this year. Take care everyone, and goodbye.